All right, today is August 14th, and I'm Paul Glumaz with the LaRouche Political Action Committee, and this is being brought to you by General Welfare Presents. Okay, so you have the developments in Charlottesville. They are not what's really going on. They are an Obama FBI operation to distract from reality and then blame it on Trump because, as you know, Trump's a racist, right? Trump is a racist. Therefore, they're going to blame it on Trump. So the whole thing smells. But that's not what really is going on. What's really going on is something that is very serious, and it's about the intention to destroy China's One Belt, One Road before it gets further along. And the two key things that are being run, one is the North Korea situation, and another is the India-China situation. Okay. The North Korean situation goes like this. The United States is being and the West is being, but particularly the United States, with massive hysteria. The North Koreans have the weapon. North Koreans can nuke Hawaii. The North Koreans can nuke Alaska. The North Koreans can nuke all these places. And the experts looking at it say, no, they don't really have it yet. They don't really have that capability yet. But this hysteria is being created. A lot like the hysteria that occurred briefly around the chemical weapons thing in Syria, just when Trump came in, and that resulted in him bombing a Syrian airfield. So the same kind of pressure is building, but this is much bigger. This is, Trump's got to do something. Trump's got to do something. Trump's got to do something. And then, at the same time this thing is building up, other people are saying, well, Trump might start World War III. We have to remove him from office. We have to remove him from office before we have World War III. So the build-up to Korea is being run on one side, and Trump could start a nuclear war is being run on the other side simultaneously by the same people to provide a pretext for assassinating Trump or removing him because he's about to start a nuclear war, because he's unstable, he's not this and that. So this is the line. This is what's going on now. There was a guy who wrote a book. I can't remember his name. It was a pseudonym. It was called "Killing the President," and it's a story about a character like Trump who is out of control, and the staff realizes he's unbalanced. That we're going to have this and so forth, and and so this same author of that book had a column in the Guardian the other day, essentially calling for something similar occur. And this happened like a day or two after a prominent CIA official by the name of Philip Mudd got on CNN and was just ranting and raving about the disrespect that Donald Trump has for the 30, 40-year people who've given their, whatever they were doing was not good necessarily. But he doesn't respect him. And the deep state is going to kill him, or the government is going to kill Trump. And the moderator said, well, do you mean that metaphorically? And he didn't say no. He didn't say yes. He didn't say he meant it metaphorically. He said, and, the disrespect and, this real, we have to, this guy is just, we got to get him out, And it mentioned, and of course, this is a high-ranking CIA, retired CIA person, Philip Mudd. And so this is the environment that's being created in Washington. So you can, the Charlottesville operation is the same thing. And this whole, white unity thing is all synthetic. It's all FBI, Obama people involved, and then there's Antifa, which is Black Bloc. It's all a scam. The whole thing's a scam, but it's having its effect. It's setting up an atmosphere for assassination of the president if he can't get impeached or he can't get removed by the 25th Amendment. So this is how far it's gone. Now, in that context, what we have been doing, what the LaRouche movement has been doing in the last 3 weeks, in the last 2.5, 3 weeks, we've been moving to break the story on the findings of the Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, on the fact that their analysis, based on their in analyzing WikiLeaks, is that the original WikiLeaks was in 87 seconds. It was a download to a flash drive. That's how WikiLeaks got it originally, and then something else was done with the so-called Guccifer 2, which the earlier Guccifer says is a CIA operation. Something else was done with to say that that's where WikiLeaks got it, and that it was and they put a Russian footprints on it. So this is huge, and we have been circulating this. We've been mobilizing, and finally it started to break into the open. And the big break came when the leftist newspaper or leftist magazine, The Nation, did an incredible story on it. Not only did they do an incredible story on it, but they went into the historical precedent of how these things work. It's an incredible article. If you get a chance, go to The Nation and read it. And they went into detail on everything. And this is not the supporters of Donald Trump. They've never supported Donald Trump. They don't like Donald Trump. They're opposing Donald Trump, but they understand that element, that progressive element, understands that this is not about Donald Trump. This is a fundamental threat to the nation. We are in the process, we're in the progress of a fascist coup. If this coup wins and takes over the government, you are in fascism, full-fledged fascism. The power that will run the country will be the power that's going to war, the power that's going to brutalize the citizenry, the power that's going to round up people, assassinate people, put people in prison. This is what you're getting. The power that will go to war with Russia and China, the power that will reinvigorate the Islamic terrorists, and so forth. This power is seeking to overthrow Trump and establish themselves as through whatever means possible. This is what's going on. So this thing is broken, and then a lot of the conservative blogs picked it up from The Nation, and today Tucker Carlson had one of the VI Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, Mr. Binney, on going into detail. So that was today. So that was good. That thing is breaking open, but simultaneously to its breaking open, the fact that the whole thing is a fraud, the whole DNC hack is a fraud. And mind you, these are the intelligence officers who left the government, retired from the government, because they couldn't take what they call the politicization of intelligence. And this was related to the 2003 weapons of mass destruction, where they knew it was a total fraud, and they were the ones with the conscience not to participate in that fraud and to retire early or leave the government and form Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, which has been active for now 14 years, or maybe less. I don't know. So anyhow, so as this thing goes out, you get these riots, and you also get the intensification of the open calls for the assassination of Donald Trump by members or former members of the deep state. So it's getting much worse. It's getting much worse. Now, in that context, you have the Korean developments and the Indian developments. Now, the Korean developments are like this. Donald Trump is being put in a corner. You got to out macho, you got to stand up to North Korea. They're being provocative. And then North Korea's is being provoked as well. But the military activity towards actually carrying out such a strike is not going on. In other words, the buildup that you would need to have for an attack is not occurring at this point as far as anyone can see. So you have the rhetoric, and then you have, but the key thing is this. The idea is to force Trump to attack or use the fact that he looks like he's about to attack to as a justification for his assassination or removal, because he's a threat. He's a threat to blow the world up. When in fact, the power that wants to remove him is far more of a threat than Donald Trump to blow up the world. Okay, so that's how sophisticated these games work. Now, for China, the issue is this. The issue is not North Korea. North Korea is not the issue. North Korea's nuclear weapons potential is not the issue. The issue is China. If North Korea is attacked by the United States and the Chinese do nothing, then the Chinese have essentially politically been destroyed. And the One Belt, One Road is destroyed. Because if the Chinese are not going to defend North Korea from an unsolicited attack, then so the U.S. can do whatever it wants in any part of it, and then that makes it very unstable, and it could lead to war from there. Because now, given that China and Russia are being surrounded by weapons and systems of that can pick up second strike weapons and radar, everything's being set up for an actual assault on an actual preemptive nuclear war on behalf of the United States against Russia and China simultaneously. That's being set up. That's been in process for a long time. That hasn't changed. That's been the preparation. So, and the military-industrial complex that's part of it has been moving in this direction, or at least moving to have the option to do that, as not only pressure. Now, the other thing about these people who are in the military who are doing this is that they subscribe to what are called algorithms, which is that you can figure out where everybody is, and you can figure out all of the outcomes, and you can then launch your attack and be certain that you'll knock out all the command centers, and you'll knock out all the chain of command, and you can actually win right on the first strike, because and this is based on algorithms. Now, Hillary Clinton campaign used algorithms, and were certain that they were going to win based on those algorithms. Well, they didn't. So if the algorithms didn't work for Hillary's campaign, they certainly aren't going to work in a preemptive nuclear strike. So anybody that's thinking of that they're going to algorithm their way to the most sophisticated way to winning a nuclear war, they are absolutely stark raving mad. And if you want to know what could happen, just look at Hillary. All the algorithms were tweaked, and it was set up that would, they set themselves up. They could not account for things that they didn't account for. Right? They didn't account for certain things. You can't account for everything. So now, the North Korea situation is an inflection point towards war. The second inflection point towards war is China and India. China is building an important road through Bhutan, which is part of the One Belt, One Road. Bhutan is a kingdom in the northern, eastern part, above Assam, and in India, at the northeastern part. And it's not a big kingdom, but it's supposed to be sovereign. But the Indians are saying that the Chinese can't build a road there because the Chinese are imposing upon Bhutan, and Bhutan doesn't know which way to go because they're under a lot of pressure from India, to not go with China, but they really want the road, and so on and so forth. So now there's troops amassed on the border, and the concentrations of troops are growing, and we are very close to a border war between India and China. Now, what's going on there? India has shifted from being part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, coming in with Pakistan, at the same time as being part of the BRICS, which is cooperating with China, Russia, South Africa, and Brazil. India has now shifted towards a total opposition to the One Belt One Road, especially the massive development corridor that the Chinese are building through Pakistan. They're fundamentally opposing this corridor, and this corridor, the Chinese are putting in $70 billion. This is huge. This is have a transformative effect on Pakistan, and the Indians are opposing it. Okay, so they're making all kinds of demands. They did not send a delegation to the One Belt One Road conference earlier in Beijing, and so now this affects the whole area because China is developing rapidly. A lot of countries want to work with China. Even India wanted to work with China earlier, and India, and you have Myanmar, formerly Burma, Thailand. All these countries want to work with China. Thailand is considering working with the Chinese to build the Kra Canal. The Vietnamese are finally warming up to China. The Philippines are warming up to China. So India is completely approaching this in terms of their imperial interests, not from the standpoint of participating with China in the One Belt One Road, but as an anti-China. And obviously they're being encouraged by the neocons in the United States. And so it is the high class right-wing Brahmin element of Hindu chauvinism, which is at the core of this anti-China operation. And these are the people that subscribe to and still maintain that the caste system is ordained by God, or ordained by the nature, and I shouldn't say God, but the nature of things. And the caste system is a rejection of the idea of universal humanity. People are identify with themselves as a caste. If you don't have a caste and you're not in the caste, you don't exist in that society. You exist within the caste, and if you talk to somebody from another caste, that's a no-no. If there's too big a distance, and that kind of thing. So it's that caste system thing, that whole orientation, which is really very serious, which is holding India back, which is also at the core of their rejection of collaborating with China on the One Belt One Road, even though it is in their strategic interest to do so. So India is now heading into a crisis, and I believe they're being encouraged. The U.S. is sending massive military upgrade, helping to modernize and upgrade their entire military hardware, prepare them for war with China. And so this is what you're dealing, and Israel has grown very close to India of late. So this is, and so the whole Islamic thing is being played that way as well. So India is being very foolish by rejecting the One Belt One Road, and committed to stopping it, at least in their part of the world. They're actually contributing to the rise of Islamic terrorism and so forth. So this is very bad. So these are the two key things that are emerging, which are threatening human race at this time. So we are entering this profound situation now. Something else has come up that people should get a sense of. Africa is the poster child for hopelessness, helplessness. Those people don't have it together. They're not really nations. They were carved up between, with different ethnic groups put in the same entity. There's constant fighting. There's constant poverty. They just don't have it together. And they had AIDS epidemics, dengue fever, all these horrible diseases, and malnutrition and starvation, and you get this montage of hellish photographs, that collage in people's minds of Africa, which was raped by Rome, raped by the Arabs, raped by the Europeans. It just seems like that's their lot, that they will always be raped, and they're an example of slavery, and so people, I'm compassionate. I want to help the starving people. I care, but Africa will always be Africa. There's nothing you can do about it, you know, and that's proof that humanity really doesn't have it all together, you know. Well, let me tell you something. The Chinese have done something which was taken very little notice of, which is they are now involved in a feasibility study with their Power Corp, with their China Power group, with the designers, or with Bonifica Spa, the Italian firm, which has got the designs for something called Transaqua. Now, this is really the key to everything. Transaqua is the largest water hydroelectric canal building project that takes the entire watershed, takes the water out of the watershed of the Congo and moves it north. You have navigable canals, you have a tremendous amount of power is generated, but more importantly, the water goes north and it fills up Lake Chad. Lake Chad is now 1/10 of the size of what it used to be in 1974 when it started to shrink. Since 1974, there's been an ongoing desertification of Africa. The Sahara Desert is moving south. It's getting drier. People can't live there. They have to crowd into towns. They have to come to Europe. That's the core of the refugee problem, is the desertification that is going on in an area called the Sahel, which is north of central equatorial Africa. So by moving this water north, you reverse that whole process. You reverse that whole process, and you have a different world. You have a different continent. And if you combine that with the rail infrastructure that's being built, Africa will become a very vibrant, productive, and wealthy part of the world. And this is very important. And so I wasn't sure the Chinese were fully on board this, but if they're going to go with Transaqua, then that means they're serious, because you cannot develop Africa without reversing the desertification, without creating 2,400 kilometers of canals and bringing the water north. That's the key. Now, the Chinese have done this in China with the Three Gorges Dam and all the other projects that are bringing water north to the same process that's been going on in China, the desertification of the northern part of China. This is very important for China. It's very important for Africa. These two things are very critical. Now, from the standpoint of a European oligarchy, this is the last straw. Those, genetically deficient people in the South that have always been our slaves, which is all they really should be anyhow, they're all going to develop. That's we can't let that happen. That's not right. That's not right. And so you have the oligarchy really freaking out over this. Plus, Europe can participate. Europe is nearby, and they can work with China in the development of Africa. This is great for Europe, and it also will tend to reverse the migration and refugee problem that they're getting from Africa, which is huge. So this is a win-win situation for Europe, but the oligarchy will have none of it. And they will rather go to war with China. They would rather go to war with Russia than allow anything like this to happen. Meanwhile, the Syrian government is increasingly consolidating and moving and occupying greater areas. 600,000 Syrians have moved back to Syria. And as this develops, many hundreds of thousands, many millions of Syrians will be going back to Syria. And that is good. However, this Indian situation is very serious. The North Korean situation is very serious, because these are the points by which you can enter into global war. These are the points by which you can enter into destroying the One Belt, One Road. Now, some economists, some people have been saying that the pressure is on China. China is the one that has to solve this problem. And if they don't solve the Korean problem, they don't force. In other words, they want China to supposedly intervene on Korea and solve the problem. What the Chinese have done is very important. What the Chinese have done is that they have said that if the U.S. attacks North Korea unprovoked or preemptively to get rid of the missiles, to get rid of anything, then China it will retaliate. No, China will. That's World War III. The Chinese have made it very clear that they're not going to stand by. They will retaliate against the United States, and you'll be in the beginning of World War. Okay, so all these hotheads out there who are paid for whores, really, they're not hotheads. They're pushing Trump one way, and then the other hotheads are pushing to get rid of Trump because he's a warmonger. That you do this to North Korea, and now, on the other hand, the Chinese have said that if the North Korea attacks unprovoked, then China will not support Korea. So this is very, very important. So the whole basis of the sanctions, which was the DNC hack, was the basis of the entire operation that led to the sanctions, led to the Russia. All of that is coming under scrutiny. Now, let's go back to the FBI. You have Mueller, you have Comey. That to understand the FBI, you have to understand that Comey, prior to becoming a head of the FBI, was a board member of the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, and he was because he did work for them in London as a lawyer. Now you have to understand, the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank is the preemptive money laundering bank of drugs, and they got caught with hundreds of billions of dollars of money laundering. I don't, maybe not that much, but close to that, and they got off. And so when you have the head of the FBI being the man from the Hong Kong Shanghai drug cartel, then you know what you're dealing with. And Mueller when Mueller left, he went to work for the same kind of crowd. So you got these people are your FBI, okay? It ain't Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. from the old FBI series. This is we're talking about a different breed here. So that's what you're dealing with, and they intend to take down Trump because they represent not the United States. They represent institutions like the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank and the drug trade. That's what the FBI represents today.